This might be the most overpriced LEGO Star Wars set of 2024. It's the 75396 Desert Skiff and Sarlacc Pit. It has 558 pieces, and that price I was talking about, $80. Just insane. We'll get into that. Perhaps a saving grace for that price for some would be the exclusive 25th anniversary minifigure in 9 nub. Alongside him, you do get 5 other quote-unquote Return of the Jedi minifigures. Looking at you, Boba Fett. I feel like I gotta say I do love the box art on this set. I think it portrays the build great, and the colors with the tan and the blue really contrast nicely. Also, to kind of set the stage for the review, I like the concept behind this, where you have the Desert Skiff and a much larger Sarlacc Pit than ever. And I think the reason the set exists the way it does with the larger Sarlacc Pit is it's made to go side by side with a UCS Jabba sail barge for fall of 2024. Cutting into the box, we'll find a pair of instruction manuals that nicely split the build in two, and we'll find bags numbered 1 through 6. All right, let's get it out of the way. This Boba Fett minifigure is bad. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Ryan, it's clearly not a bad figure. It looks extremely detailed, and it even has arm printing, which isn't entirely common on LEGO Star Wars figures. And I understand that point of view. However, this is very specifically Boba Fett's Empire Strikes Back armor, as opposed to his Return of the Jedi armor. And while the detail on this figure is spectacular, I would argue it's better than what we saw in the UCS Slave 1 and Master Builder series Cloud City over the last decade. But it's not a Boba Fett from this movie, from this scene, which it should be in a set that costs $80 and is meant to complement a UCS set from Return of the Jedi. It's quite telling that in a $30 Desert Skiff and Sarlacc Pit set in 2017, they included the proper Boba Fett in his Return of the Jedi armor, but in this set for $80, they can't do that anymore. And we've seen this coming for a long time with LEGO Star Wars. The seeds were planted in 2020. It's really sad to see them reuse a print here to cut costs on a set that I think is already crazily overpriced at $80. I mean, this is really a new low for LEGO Star Wars, in my opinion. And I say all of that without mentioning that they didn't include the cloth pauldron for Boba Fett, something that they included in sets as cheap as $25 in the past. But now an $80 set, can't have it. It's a well-detailed figure that aesthetically looks great. There was clearly a lot of really hard work that went into making it look so great, but it ain't great for this set. And that's what matters. I'll lighten up a bit because next we've got an iconic duo in Han Solo and Chewbacca, both stuck in handcuffs here. The Chewbacca figure looks great. It's a very common figure these days, but it's still very well done in this set. And then Han Solo here is a fantastically clean looking character with a couple of facial expressions. I really love these two guys side by side in this set. The Luke minifigure in this set is also pretty good, although it's certainly debatable whether or not he should be as gray as he is, or if it should just be all black with a little bit of gray printing. I think I lean towards the latter, but I think the figure looks okay here. It's just definitely not my favorite figure in the set, but when you have something as glaring as Boba Fett, it's hard to worry about. And then finally, for Skiff-specific figures, we have our Skiff Guard Lando minifigure, which is a vastly improved figure for the most part from the last time that we saw him in 2012. I think a lot of this character looks amazing with fantastic printing detail. He even brings back that Skiff Guard helmet, which is nice, but comparing it to that 2012 one, it has lost a bit of the printing detail that the old one had. So I would say the helmet is an absolute downgrade. There's no way around it. But overall, I'm a pretty big fan of Lando here, and for people that don't have that 2012 one to compare to, you won't really know what you're missing out on. We do have the 25th anniversary minifig in this set, which is an absolute highlight and a treat to have. Finally, 9 nub. It's a great looking character. This head mold looks absolutely fantastic, and honestly, there's no downsides to this figure other than that you have to get it in an overpriced set. While the minifigs were definitely a mixed bag, the Desert Skiff and Sarlacc Pit are not. It's the best Desert Skiff and Sarlacc Pit that we have ever had for LEGO Star Wars. I just happen to have the 2012 versions built and handy right now, but I will have a full comparison of all of these builds on my YouTube channel at some point, so subscribe. But you can see it is night and day after 12 years. Like, it's crazy how much better that Desert Skiff is than the 2012 one, and how much better the Sarlacc Pit is than the 2012 one. But the Sarlacc Pit presents a problem in this set in that it's so much bigger, it might have caused the price to balloon. Let me get the real worst thing about this out of the way first, and what I've seen most people disappointed by is just that the backside is kind of hollow, empty, unfinished feeling, and I can understand why you'd be disappointed by that. I can see that. However, on a display with its back to the wall, it literally doesn't matter. And if it was finished off, does a set cost $100? You know what I mean? So I think the upside of it not being finished off and that the set isn't even more exorbitantly overpriced is a positive. Obviously, the downside being it's just not finished off, and I can get that and understand that, but I still think it's fine as is. There's a lot of other really great things about this, though. The depth that this Sarlacc pit has is definitely something to really like about it. Now, of course, they could never reasonably make a Sarlacc pit that's as deep as it should be, or really like, I don't know, I guess twice as high would kind of fit the mouth of it, and then you could really feel like it's a real pit. But this is the closest they have come to giving you a real tried and true Sarlacc pit, and it's something that is supposed to end up sitting next to a UCS set. I think it's going to look good enough. The face of it being so wide is nice, and they do a good job of just making it have a nice built up sandy look that kind of feels natural, with a lot of light tan and a little bit of darker tan mixed in before you actually look inside of the Sarlacc pit, where we'll actually see way more color in there. But we'll get to that in a second, because I want to show off one of the main play features that's on the back here, and you can actually make the Sarlacc pit's tentacles kind of fly everywhere. Arms, I don't know what they are for a Sarlacc pit. But you have these pieces sticking out the back, and if you move them up and down, you can make it flail its arms or whatever. So it's pretty cool. It's like a really neat play function. And then kind of like a side effect of that is, as you close him, you can actually make it close its mouth by pushing it hard enough. So that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, it doesn't like open the mouth back up. You have to do it manually, but you can make it close its mouth, which is nice. With the top-down view, you can see some of the teeth around the edges of the Sarlacc pit, and I also really like the use of black at the bottom there. It makes it feel more expansive, more like a pit, more like you're going into the belly of the beast. I just like the vibes that it gives off, so luckily no like wild colors or anything really show through on this build. Now, if we take our Boba Fett minifigure, we can put him inside of the Sarlacc pit's mouth, and you know what? I'm gonna do it the way that I showed you. We can close these and push it to get, okay, maybe he can stop that from happening. There we go. Well, his antenna sticks out. It's kind of funny. But yeah, the Sarlacc pit can hold a minifigure within, and then you can recreate from the Book of Boba Fett. I guess it's the wrong Boba Fett minifigure to be recreating it. You need a very worn and tired-looking Boba Fett, but you can open it up and let him escape. So this is clearly the best Sarlacc pit they have ever made. It looks great. It's going to display great, and for a set that's as expensive as it is, you can't question the quality of this Sarlacc pit build, which is good. When you're paying so much money, you shouldn't have any questions about quality, and at least, I mean, with the figures, that's a problem, and obviously we discussed that, but with this build, it's not. And guess what? The same can be said for this beautiful Desert Skiff. First thing I noticed when I picked this up is that it is very light. I mean, it's thin, so it's expected, but it is lighter than maybe like a Jedi Starfighter, something reasonably comparable in size. Put that back in for now. But yeah, we'll start at the front. Very tight, good design, very minimal gaps. You can see just like natural, part gaps, but otherwise they've got it pretty down pat on the front end. They've made really good use of these rubber tubes to get a nice curvature on top, and it definitely adds nicely to the shape at the front of the skiff. I'll also add that I really like the flooring that they've got going on in here. I love that there's a mixture of studs and tiles. However, I do think it would be better if there were more studs just to hold on your minifigures, because if you put Han Solo and Chewbacca at the front here and start to play with it, they're just going to fall over, which is kind of sad. But at the same time, you can try to find a little spot for them here. It definitely works if you get creative with the placements, but I do think it limits what you can do by not having studs in some of those certain spots, even though it does look beautiful. You notice the plank coming out, there's actually a piece on the other side that you push through to make the plank come out, which is nice. There are no studs or anything on the plank, so it's also tiled off, which makes it look very nice, but it means you can't have a figure just stand on there while you're flying it around. Like, that's just not going to work. But we can definitely take Luke here and force him to jump into the Sarlacc pit. Unfortunately, maybe a little bit far away to get him to go into maybe the middle where you would want. Fortunately, the clear stilts on the bottom just aren't high enough to get you way further above the Sarlacc pit, although they do get you just high enough to get over the lip, which is adequate. Speaking of the clear stilts, I am not a huge fan of the one in the middle having a bigger base. It definitely is there to add stability, but looks a little bit ugly. I wish either all three were larger or all three were smaller. I don't think you can have all three smaller though, because clearly this would be there for a reason. So yeah, I just think it doesn't look the greatest, but it's a small flaw with the build of this set. Maybe the only flaw. Moving further back on the build, you can see the driving area with an area to place a minifigure behind it. You can grab on and control the Desert Skiff, which is sick. I think this whole back area looks very cool, very well built with a lot of small pieces that end up making the design just look perfect. And remember, I haven't had a chance to compare to everything, but in my memory, I don't think they've really represented the engines very well, if at all, in previous Desert Skiff builds. So I think this is where the thrust comes out of the back. It looks great. It's just so good. like shockingly so, to see this. So I'm in love with the way this thing looks. Perhaps the best part usage on the set though goes to this hat here. It's like a minifigure hat piece, and it just is placed onto the side of the wing or fin for the Desert Skiff. It just looks so good in that dark tan color. Just a great design. There's one more play feature built into the set with this railing that you can knock out to reenact a minifigure maybe like falling into the pit or nearly falling into the pit. It's a hard thing to set up, but you know, you can try to make it look good for a display if you wanted to. Final thoughts, $80 is just insane for this set. We knew that, but it wouldn't be as insane if it had the perfection you would expect from a company whose slogan is only the best is good enough. And so the Boba Fett sucks. Lando's helmet, just a downgrade, but like the builds are really good, and that's a redeeming factor. If you do decide to purchase this set, you won't be disappointed with these builds. And I think the unfortunate reality is a lot of people will buy this set if they also like the UCS Jabba sail barge that's supposed to come out in fall of 2024. And so LEGO will be vindicated in pricing this set so high, which isn't what we want, right? You know, we want them to realize they're kind of messing some things up, and you know, maybe the price should be $10, $15, $20 lower on a set like this. Probably 20, right? This should be a $60 set. I think that's a fair price on this. But yeah, the 9-nub is also great, and that will also get some people in the door on this. And yeah, like there's reasons to buy this, but if it weren't for the 25th anniversary and it weren't for the UCS sail barge, this set would be probably an all-time flop. Its pricing is just that insane. And so to give it a numerical rating, I would probably end up somewhere around a 7 or 8 out of 10. Most of the knock coming from the pricing and the Boba Fett minifigure, which is just beyond inexcusable. It's just really, really bad that that's what they're doing with Boba Fett in this set. But you know, if that was the picture of the set right there, that's all I saw, and I didn't know how much it cost, I'd be like, dang, that's a good looking Desert Skiff, and that's a good looking Sarlacc Pit. But unfortunately, we see the whole picture in this review. So let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and you can check out my other LEGO Star Wars 2024 set reviews on the end screen now.